Alrighty, folks, welcome to Twitchline. I am your host, Zolfan, joined as always with my best friend Tim. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Doing good, man. How you been?
I'm all right. It's just been a long week. Had a lot of stuff happen this week. Personally, not to me, but to the nation as a whole. So, nothing really fun in my household, but there was a lot of fun going on TV last night. The first of possibly last presidential debate. They say that they might not even do anymore based on what happened yesterday. The quote shit show, as CNN called it, ended yesterday with really no winners, and it was horrific to watch, from what I understand.
Yeah, from what I saw, they're considering changing the rules to how debates are done simply because of what total crap fest it was. And, as I suggested to you last night, I think it would be very effective to have each of the candidates wear a shock collar so that the moderator can zap them if they get out of line. And then after 3 zaps, you go straight to total recall and your head blows up.
Yep, honestly, that would be probably what they would want to do. I think there was talk about possible moderator mutes, the way they do on Pardon the Interruption. Not Pardon the Interruption. It's one of those ESPN shows where if he says something bad, they hit the moderator hits like a button and then immediately mutes him. But we shouldn't be at that point, right? These people are adults. They should be able to talk to each other, but they can't. And it's just embarrassing as a nation. So,
what about this one? What about if, like Back to the Future style, we have live fact checkers, and the more you're found to be lying, there's an effect that starts to fade you away, like from the photograph in Back to the Future. So you start to become more transparent, and eventually, if you lie too much, you just disappear.
I wish that could happen where you just sort of fade away and just not allow, just pass out of existence and be done.
If you tell the truth, you come back to full transparency.
That would be great. But I just, these are dreams, and unfortunately, it's just one of those things in which it's like you watch something like that, and I watched highlights today, and it was sad. It was more sad to watch because civility is just gone. Like, you have a president who refuses to denounce white supremacy, and then all he does is just insult people and talk over them and not give them a voice. And he's still going to get 40+% of the vote, which is insane to me.
It's almost like nothing matters anymore.
I know. So it's like I didn't want to talk politics, but that was like the big news of the day because it's pretty much dominated the news cycle for today. And the thing about it is I think people had to get it out of their system. So for those who didn't know, you could go watch replays on YouTube, and the most significant event of the night was Joe Biden telling Donald Trump to please shut up, because I don't think I've ever heard that ever in a debate, which was it was funny because there were tweets by Hillary Clinton, when it happened, and people were tweeting Hillary Clinton. He's like, I bet you really wanted to do that to him when you were on stage, and she's like, you have no idea. And there was a literal quote in Twitter, and there was an article today in Yahoo, and this I think opens up an interesting topic. Is if Hillary Clinton would have done that, the writer speculated that instead of Joe Biden getting the praise that he got for saying it today from the press and from people who support him, she would have gotten an adverse reaction to what happened.
Yep.
The writer was speculating that she would have been called like a bitch. It's like she would have been. It's like, I can't believe that she doesn't, she can't let this guy keep talking. I mean, there were just a whole bunch of comments that were listed on there, and it's just the double standard that was portrayed in this article that they were saying was crazy, but it's sort of true. And
it is true.
It is true. Yeah, not sort of true, but it is true. And it's just sad to think about it that way. And then you have Mitch McConnell, who is the Senate Majority Leader, who refuses to debate his opponent if the moderator is a woman, and how it's not a bigger story is absolutely crazy. It's like,
He hasn't had a female moderator in 25 years.
yeah,
So
yeah,
this is not like a new thing. He's afraid of women. And it's like nothing that you're saying now is any surprise to anyone who's paid any attention to social dynamics between men and women. And the people who would say that's bullshit are the same people that think that racism's disappeared.
yeah.
You know? What are you
It's
going to do with them?
It's crazy. So it's like, the fact that they can get away with that, and the fact that he's actually still leading Kentucky by double-digit points is absolutely insane to me. So it's like, you know what? It's just, it feels like it's a lost cause. So it's, but enough.
Maybe.
Enough of politics for today. I think that was just one of the things that was on my mind this morning. The another thing was a video we had talked about Shadowlands last week here, and there was a video online that actually stated that they were discussing about one of the changes in Shadowlands coming up, and I don't know if this is true or not, that they were going to take away personal loot and then maybe revert back to a group loot system, which has many ramifications that I thought was very, very weird, considering I thought everybody liked the current way the way the loot system works. It takes away ninjaing. It does a whole bunch of other stuff that basically contributed to quote negativity in WoW. But I don't know. I don't know if it's true or not. Like the video was from.
You didn't find it again, or is it
Oh,
just a video, or is it linked to an article like from
no,
WoW?
so let me pull it up here because it was something in my history that it was actually something that I watched this morning, and it was from a dedicated WoW YouTuber. So let me go through the videos of uh, stuff here. So all right, it was from. Okay, so not exactly sure what this is. It's from Taliesin and Evital, who are
Yep, they're very popular.
they're very popular, and then the theme of their video is why players want Shadowlands delayed, and Blizzard kills loot for everyone. So, it's a very sort of clickbait title, but I would suggest go watching the video. And I think they're just speculating on things, but who knows what that's about in a way. I mean, it really is one of those things in which I don't think anybody really knows exactly. There have been some alpha tests with regards to Shadowlands and things like that, but the pre-patch is coming out, I think, within the next week or two. I think people are just very ready for it. Me and you have been playing regular WoW, like BFA WoW, just try to get one of my characters up to as high as possible, and then we just started a Demon Hunter so that I can get character up. So that it'll be interesting what they do. But my question to you, Tim, is as someone who has played WoW religiously for the last 15 years, do you think like any of the changes in if they did take this away from Shadowlands, it would like adversely affect the game in a negative way?
You're
Like,
talking about if they change the loot.
yeah, if they
system?
change the loot system, yeah.
They've done loot system changes, and people have lost their minds over it. And then they've done it again, and people lost their minds again. It's a cycle. So people would have a freak out, and then they would get used to the new. And then when they change it again later, because people complain about it, they're just always going to complain. Then they'll change it again, and people get used to that new.
Yeah.
Me personally, I would not like changes for the loot system, only because personal loot is the farmer's dream. Right?
Yeah.
If someone like me who plays multiple accounts and goes into the game with a farming aspect and a gold making aspect in mind, I like being able to kill one mob and get three loots off of it. It's because I play 3 accounts, so or if you're going back to farm old transmog and stuff, you go in there with multiple tunes and you can get better chances of having the thing
Yeah.
drop. as it is now, it's working. So I don't even know why there's a conversation that it needs to be changed.
Maybe it's just the developers. Maybe it's because of the negative effect on the in the economy. Because I was like, I just started playing retail, a month ago. As we get closer to Shadowlands and stuff, just to get used to it. And I find that it is fun to check every day and know that I've made 2,000, 3,000 gold, which is something that if you play Classic is ridiculously just a shit ton of money, excuse my language. But it's very interesting to see how much of things are available, like just selling cloth or herbs or anything like that. And when you sort of just dump it on the auction house, you see that like at a particular price, no matter what the price is, it's like there could be thousands available of that particular herb or something like that. And part of it is because it's a high pop server, but it's just crazy to see that much of a particular item be available, and then the bloat becomes, and then the amount of money that they give you for quests and all sorts of other things like that is just so easy making money that maybe they wanted to rein that in a little bit. So.
Right, but it's all relative, right? So
yeah.
If you're trying to compare this to Classic, of course it seems like an obscene amount of money.
Yeah.
But the money that you're making right now, selling old world mats and stuff, which is marked up because fewer people over there going to go farm that stuff, so that's actually in less supply. Once you get to 120 and you're running around, you die a couple times and you repair yourself, your repair is going to cost 300 gold. And so then you don't feel like, because you just ran a dungeon and your group died because you're doing Mythic Plus, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that making a couple thousand gold doesn't seem to add up to as much when you've got your repairs, you've got to buy your flasks and your potions and everything else, and that's gets up to 1,000 gold there. So there's a balance to it already. People can make a bunch of money in the game if they want to, if they set their mind to it. People can also be poor in the game if they spend all their money and don't really pay attention to it. So changing the loot system is not going to alter behavior that messes with the economy now, right? Killing a mob and looting off it, it's a part of the gold making thing, especially people who go around old dungeons and stuff. But a lot of those people are doing it singularly on one character, so then it doesn't matter, it doesn't have an effect. And the bots that are going around, people with 20 characters flying around picking the same herb, that's going to stay the same. So that has no effect there. So what's the point? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know. So it's just, it's just an interesting change. Maybe it's just something that they wanted to talk about. So maybe they, you scare people. A little clickbaity, I think, also. But, check it out for yourself. They have a great channel on YouTube. They talk about all things WoW and gaming in general. So it's sort of something that we wanted to talk about, too. Besides that, other things, the only other real gaming thing that affects me in a personal basis is the current obsession with the game Among Us. And I haven't even played it yet, but I've gotten my entire guild is literally addicted to this game, and it is what they play late at night. And we're a classic guild, so we play WoW during the night. But like yesterday, we got through AQ40 in less than 2 hours and went into MC to see if we can get bindings, and then it ended. But immediately, 10 to 15 people immediately just sort of disconnected right after, instead of like farming or hanging out or doing whatever, and they went straight into that game. And it just seems to me it's a digital version of Clue. You remember the game Clue?
Yep.
Yeah, Tim. It was like, and it's fun because I've seen people completely lose their shit on that game. Yeah. On Twitch, and it's made it an amazing game to stream because it is an interesting way to see personalities of people in a different light. And I think you see your Twitch streamers who play it, your Pokemains, your XQCs, even some of your other hardcore streamers and stuff, and you see like a different side of their personality, and it's an interesting way to sort of relate to the streamer.
Sometimes it's different. Sometimes it's exactly who you've seen before.
Yeah.
Just more extreme, more in your face. I don't really enjoy listening to people argue and talk shit and yell at each other and not talk over each other. So that game would never appeal to me. Plus, I also have major anger issues when I play games. So, not
well, that's why you should play it. Yeah.
4 games and stuff like that.
Well,
you don't want to be on my team.
So this stems from way back, because we used to play board games and all sorts of other stuff, and one of the games that we used to play was Taboo. And for people who don't know what that is it's a game where you're given a set of cards, and each card has something that you have to describe to the other person. That person has to guess it, but they're given like 5 words that they're not allowed to say, or you get to buzz them. And half the fun is buzzing people when you catch them say one of those words, because the way that it works is that the opponents see the card, and then the person who has to yell out the cards, yell out the title, has to mention it, and then if they catch it, you sort of buzz them in the face. Him over here would get really frustrated if somebody didn't sort of catch on to what he was saying. Our group of friends have been together a long, long time, so therefore there are in-jokes and everything like that you should be referencing. So sometimes the game goes a little off the ride, especially if you're a person who is just joining for the first time and doesn't understand. But if somebody doesn't get an obvious sort of hint, somebody would get really upset. And it would start slow, because he would be like, "Oh, you didn't get it? Come on, it was that. And then about an hour in, you'd be like, "God damn it!"
Table flips,
It's like, "Oh!"
I didn't really Hulk rage or anything, but
the disappointment was palpable the disappointment was palpable in your face, which always was half the fun, because at that point,
yes,
then it was a matter of
everyone just wanted to make it happen.
Yes. Depending on who was playing with you, it would be one of those things in which it's like, oh, let's see how mad I can actually, and at that point it's not about winning anymore. It's about what kind of reaction can you draw out.
Yes.
And I was wondering though, could you make a game of something like that? Like, if you have a close group of friends, the whole game isn't necessarily about the facts or the thing that you're trying to do. The real part of the game is how to make the person completely rage out. Like, it would be one of those things in which it's like, who can get somebody the angriest? And I don't know. I mean, like, Among Us apparently has become one of these games where people are getting really, really upset about being voted off the quote spaceship, because I think you're running around doing everybody but the murderer is running around doing chores on the ship, and then when somebody gets killed, there's an immediate vote every time. So for those who don't know, the game is like, it's a lobby of like 10 people. One of them is a murderer, and the rest of the 9 are these workers, and they have to do tasks. So the whole point of the game is for the workers to complete all of their tasks that they've been assigned, or for the murderer to kill everybody. So what ends up happening is that if the murderer gets pretty far along and there's like 3 people left and the murderer doesn't get voted off, the murderer is going to win. And it's very rare that it happens. The joy of the game is voting people off who you are assuming is the murderer, who has done absolutely nothing wrong, but is blamed for the goings on in the ship, and it is just hilarious to watch. That is the appeal of it.
Are you allowed to talk once your character's dead?
So no, and that's part of the game. So what happens is after the person is dead. So the whole part of the game that makes it fun is that if everybody's in a Discord channel together, I think the really good streamers literally have a Discord of everybody together in the thing, and they talk about what's been going on, and everybody can say, oh, I was doing this and the door closed behind me, and then that person died on the other side of the door. And it's like, and then people are trying to figure out like who's who, and the lying that's involved is absolutely hilarious, because because people don't want to get voted off, because if they get voted off, then they lose. So I'm just trying to see if there's like another way that you can sort of take that same concept, but just turn it into a rage-filled sort of Maury Povich show where people are just angry all the time. Yeah.
So it not the rage one, but like when I was teaching overseas in China and in the Middle East, I would have a game, and even in the U.S., I would have a game that I would play with intermediate level students, which I just called "Lie to Me" because of that TV show. And the premise of the game, the basic premise of the game was you get into groups of two, generally 2 or 3, and you would all kind of huddle up, and you would come up with one person in that group. You'd all kind of quickly tell a short story about your life that was kind of wild or unbelievable in some way, and then there'd be one person that would tell their real story of the thing that happened to them, and then the 2 other ones would also tell the story but change the details so that it was more real, like more possible that it happened to them.
Oh, okay.
And but they all had to have the same kind of story and just certain details or whatever. And then after they all told their story, the rest of the class had to ask questions and get information. They had to respond to those and answer those questions. And sometimes the bad liars, it was just obvious who was lying. Sometimes a good person who was telling the truth would pretend like they were lying and things like that. Basically, for your team to win, you had to make the rest of the class get it wrong. So,
I see.
So the crazier the story, the harder it was for people to guess who was telling the truth.
Okay. So would it be something like this? And this is something that really happened to me when I was a kid. Well, when I was a teenager, or let's start with the premise. I was attacked.
You're lying.
Yeah. Let's start with this premise. I was attacked by a bear. So I have 3 versions of the story. It's like, 1, I was at a petting zoo, and they had a baby panda cub when I was at a petting zoo when I was a little kid, which I was allowed to get close to, but instead of getting close to him and petting him and everything like that, the bear got really aggressive and started to scratch me on my arm and left a mark. See this little H mark that's on my arm right here? That's what the bear did. Then, or was it when I was older, I went to a forest, and literally what was going on is I was camping with some friends. You weren't here. But when we were starting to put our trash away, and we would hang it up in a tree because according to Devin, you're supposed to do that so the bears don't get at it, the bear came and lunged at us out of the woods as we were doing that, and we just literally had to abandon it, and the bear actually got at the garbage. It didn't attack. It like sort of looked like it was going to attack us, but it actually went after the garbage instead. Or I was actually 16, and the bear was a bear costume. And I was really sleepy when I was at work one time, and he came in, and I freaked out and punched him in the face. And it was that type of bear that actually attacked me. So, is it that sort of game? Because one of those 3 things actually happened. So
it could be done that way.
Yeah.
So what would happen in my classes, especially the ones in the U.S., some of my classes had students from like 16 different countries. So one person would be like, "Oh, I was in Egypt and I was, on a family vacation, and my family ended up, we rented donkeys to go up on this trail, and one of the donkeys died, and the guides wouldn't take us back because we had too many of us and there weren't enough donkeys, so we were basically going to be stranded until something else happened. They didn't have any way to call. So that kind of thing. So then one person would tell that, and the other person would be like, okay, so no, it wasn't in Egypt. I was actually in the Midwest, and we were at a horse ranch, and we took the horses out and everything, and one of the horses got bit by a snake. And so they'll just like slight detail changes, and then people will ask, okay, well, what was the name of the hotel you stayed in when you were in the Midwest, and
Yeah,
just things like that to throw them off and to see who would lie about it and who would tell the truth. And a lot of times it was the craziest stories that were the real ones.
that's that would be a fun game even if it wasn't an English class, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think that would be
Yeah,
like
a real. I mean, like, and the best thing about it is when you're teaching, one of your most successful ways to teach is to make the people that are learning not feel like it's a class and not feel like they're learning something, but like that they're enjoying their time. But you build in the point of the lesson like as a task in the learning experience. So like there's no way for them to complete the game or the task without using the language you want them to use and asking questions and eliciting information and building a timeline and things like that. So it was pretty useful.
Well, no, that's actually really cool. And like everything was done in English, so you had, in order to figure out the truth, you had to communicate in English, which is actually interesting. So people had to know how to ask, like, the question that they wanted to ask. I thought that's neat. But as a game, though, I think this would make a really cool sort of adult party game where everybody
probably exists.
Yeah, where everybody has like a story that they know that they could tell. But if you're playing with a really tight group of friends, everybody knows what the real story is. So
right.
It's just one of those things. Maybe it's one of those things in which sort of like icebreakers, like somebody gets a new girlfriend or new boyfriend or something like that, and to get to know them, it's like he has to have a story. He has to tell. He has a story that he has to tell, but he brings in two people that are at that party, and it's like, this is a real story. This is my real story, and then I want you to create variations, and I want you to tell the real story. I want me to tell the fake story, and then you can tell another fake story, and then they have to guess which one. I think it'd be fun. Mm-hmm. And it's like, because I'm always enamored in games of lying. There's a show in England called Would I Lie to You, and it's basically it's a panel show game, which in England is apparently big. But they get celebrities there, and then they have these. And then what happens is you don't know whether or not they're actually telling a lie based on the cards that they're reading, and it could be real. But the whole idea is for the other side of the panel to figure out whether or not the story is true. And they ask questions, and it's very, very funny. And some of the situations are ridiculous but true. And usually the best shows are true. And it's like one of them was that one of the hosts was invited to the royal wedding, but he didn't go because he had to film the show that day. So the other panel had to decide whether or not he was actually lying when he actually said that. And they were breaking down. It's like, well, how did you know Prince Harry? Did you know Meghan Markle? It's like, no, Prince Harry came to one of my stand-up shows, and he's a really big fan of the show. And I got an invite through my publicist, and and you play it up to see how it's real, and it's really cool. So that's just one example of something like that. If you ever see a clip of that, Would I Lie to You is actually, there's tons of clips on YouTube. It's a hilarious show. One of the best ones is whether or not some guy paid £100 to rent a horse in Bulgaria. And it just sort of spirals out of control, and it's a hilarious sort of thing to do. But he's Scottish, so you really don't understand what he's actually saying. So
if you've lived a wild life, you can definitely have fun with that game. And part of the fun is telling a story and having people listen to you, and then part of the fun is people trying to figure out how it could possibly be true.
Oh yeah. Well, I also use like lies like that every time like I'm at the beach and I have that scar on my chest that goes all the way around. I always tell a different story every time when somebody asks about it, especially if people have never seen it before. My favorite was the one that you came up with about Indonesian Fight Club. I use that on occasion, and that's
real,
always...
dude. That's the real story.
Yeah.
I know you can't tell that story to everyone.
Oh, I know. It's like, you 16, go into some underground fight clubs. You have to put the burlap around the arms, the glue, and the glass, and then you just sort of go at it, man. It's like, and then one of them just got really bad, and he just sort of scratched me on the back. It's amazing how long you can tell that story with them just sort of shocked, and that you've got somebody who's good when they immediately just call you out on your bullshit and be like, nah.
Well, that's why you have to start crying. Lends it credibility.
See, I don't know if there's any... I don't know if crying would improve that because it would be almost like forced. It'd be like it was like, oh, you were in a child's fight club. No, 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 no. You were fighting for your life. I think that you got to take
Yeah,
that story down to
you
be
could be
like,
hardened over
yeah.
time by that, yes, but a little bit of water in the eyes, the lost youth, the innocence, they could eat that up. Plus, it really paired well with your other scar on your hand,
Oh
which
yeah, yeah.
was just like out of Fight Club too. So the two together are just too good,
I never really understood the scar on my hand because there's for anybody see there's an H on
No
my
one saw
left.
it.
Yeah, nobody see it. I don't know if you can actually see it on there, but it's disappearing. But just to say,
The one on the back of your hand.
oh, that one, that's a hockey scar. So, like,
Please, that's a Fight Club scar. Stop it.
yes, it was the fight club of the metal arena up at freaking the ROTC Center up at Virginia Tech. Is literally where that happened. So I was like bleeding all down my arm and stuff. But
That's badass.
but no, it wasn't. But yeah, just a little stuff to talk about. Oh, we were discussing this today. Tier maker, which is something that we were talking about. As you know, as a podcast, we're always looking for something to do and to talk about. One of the suggestions that came up was creating a tier list, and God knows all sorts of other people have always done this, even radio jockeys stuff also. But I think it'd be fun if we did something, that we would be able to rate. And I think the way that we should do it is we need to come up with a category in which we go back and forth with regards to the tiers. So we can have a straight up debate of whether or not something belongs where it is. Now, the way that we could theoretically do it is basically you create a side by side list of the same thing, be it whatever topic that we talk about, because we're going to talk about what we're going to create as a topic list. But your S tier list could be very drastically different from my S tier list. Mm-hmm. And it's just one of those things that I think let the audience know a little bit about us with regards to what we think is good and bad. But I think a side-by-side comparison would be different. Because every time you see these tier maker lists, it's always just one list, and then everybody's just like, yeah. There are some vast differences with regards to things that me and Tim do not like, I think. And like. We have a lot of similar things. Our love of Chick-fil-A absolutely goes on the S tier list. But I don't know. I think fast food is a little cliche because everybody's already done that before. Plus, there are tons of fast food locations. We're never going to get all of them because we're in America. This is the land of fat. So, unfortunately, if we wanted to do something like that, we'd have to pare it down. Do something like I suggested, maybe just chicken places. Maybe
if you want to do food,
yeah, if you want to do food, or you could also do other categories of food where you have the mid tier non fast food. What the hell is it called? Casual dining category where it is not fast food, but it is also not a sit down restaurant. It is
Applebee's, or no, even
Applebee's would be considered casual dining. The Chipotle is also considered casual dining. It's not necessarily fast food.
I consider that fast food, but that's just me.
I think yeah, but you look at your Paneras of the world, your
fast food.
Yeah, that's fast food. I guess it's
as long as it's like if you have a plastic booth, then
I don't know. They have some decent furniture in there. It's like more of a coffee shop / sandwich place, right? Like, I don't know.
If you have a tray, it's fast food.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're in a buffet. But buffets are buffets, and I don't ever want to rate a buffet. All buffets are shit. Unless you're in Vegas.
Unless you're in Vegas. Yeah. That Bacchanal buffet over at the Caesar's Palace. That's great.
And actually, Movenpick used to be R2. Oh, and Hot Shops. Damn. Okay, I give up. There's some good buffets out there.
So, have you ever been to a Luby's before?
I don't know.
Luby's cafeteria? Sort of like Hot Shops, but it was one based in Texas. They recently closed down. So we lose another one of those cafeteria style locations. Like me and Tim loved Hot Shops Cafe, place where you could get pudding and Jello and all sorts of other like basic foods when you were kids, and you'd go in, you get your tray, and then you walk in and you pick whatever you want, and then you check out. And it was great. They had everything from steaks, the sandwiches, and all sorts of other stuff. They're gone now.
It's hard to describe it in a way that makes it seem any better than another buffet, though. But what I will say is, those cafeteria style like street food places in Asia, especially Singapore, those are some of the best foods.
Oh yeah,
It's incredible.
See, the thing about it is if it wasn't for COVID, they were going to be building an extension to a cafeteria place that was down in Annandale. Yeah, they were going to take over the Kmart and put a giant Hong Kong style like hawker place, and there would have been amazing. But now with COVID,
I was trying to convince a buddy of mine, Chinese buddy of mine, to come over and open up a dumpling place with me.
Oh, would he do it there? Because I know that he would make a killing there.
Yep.
Just because they've already got the built-in customers, and if he created,
Lord knows I'll have to slang some dumplings. You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, saying
make that money.
I'm telling you, like I'd throw some money in there to get that started. Yeah, and then but I'd be doing the dumplings too, right into people's mouths.
Yeah.
But man,
you ever try to catch a high-speed dumpling with some chopsticks? That's difficult.
I'm telling you, I was like, but that'd be a moneymaker. All you just they would probably do it right too. I mean, he'd get a large section, and he has the window. He would be able to get the guy to basically make the dumpling.
His wife, her family has like 7 dumpling restaurants in China already, so it's all there. It just needs to be, the door needs to be open. People need to show up.
I remember when
there are a lot of shitty dumpling places in this area. I'll tell you.
Yeah,
I'm very unhappy about that.
Well, we live on the East Coast in a location that isn't necessarily conducive to authentic Chinese food.
DC's Chinatown is weak. Philadelphia's Chinatown's better, and that's weak.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing, right?
Nice.
Nice.
New York, nice.
Nice. LA, very good.
Oh, I haven't tried that one.
LA's good. But LA has more than just Chinatown. I mean, it's like Japantown and Koreatown too, and you get some really good food there. So it's not just those locations, which is crazy. But yeah, it's weak here. And
where we suffer for the Chinese cuisine, it's made up for Korean. The Korean food here, very good.
And it's in enclaves, right? It's in Centerville or it's in Annandale, and that's all. And those are your main locations. But if you're looking for
good Chinese, if you're there like Taiwanese, if you go out to Rockville's got some good Chinese.
Did you actually make it out there? Like, have you? Like, I know with the lockdown and stuff, but were you able to? Not recently, yeah.
We went out there and tried a couple things.
Yeah, we could turn this into basically an Asian food blog. We could probably talk for hours with regards to it.
Just get a GoPro. I have a GoPro. Just take this thing on the road.
I'm telling you, everybody loves food. That's the thing.
Order up the stuff that our American viewers might never see on the table.
The thing about it is those shows have, if you watch the Anthony Bourdain or like those shows really have that sort of monopoly on that. And I've always thought that you would have made a great traveling host.
But check this out. Those shows that's not anything that people can do themselves. I mean, Anthony Bourdain going to some rural place in Africa and eating something people will never have the chance to eat. It's cool to watch, but going around to places that people could just look up on the, online, be like, hey, I can go there next Friday and try it out. But they just wouldn't, because most of the places that people go to on television are decently well known, or at least are established in some way. But if you're talking about like good Chinese food, it's not going to be from the most amazing, most expensive places that everybody knows about. Yeah. It's going to be some hole in the wall stuff. It's going to be, the cook that no one ever knew about.
It's a back alley in Beijing that nobody goes to. No white person would go to. That might get you sick, but it has the best food.
A number of times.
but it has the best whatever they make. It's like it was funny. I think it was one of those travel shows where they were doing the duck. And like the city's famous for its duck, but the place that they went to was literally down like a back alley. You make a right, and it like some nondescript hallway. It looks like, and then all of a sudden it opens up into this big restaurant, and then they just have the ducks in the window and lines out the door, and you're like, oh, man, this is the place to go to. And it's like, oh man, where would you ever find that? God knows. But like, there is a subcategory of people who try to find those particular places. Like on YouTube, there's the Canadian guy who travels all through China and goes and tries to find all the Chinese places, like the street food and all this other stuff in China. But I think you've commented on how the fact that you hate the way he speaks Chinese, or is that?
Oh, now there's this guy that goes around like New York, and I mean, all his YouTube videos say like, "Oh, I'm perfectly fluent in Chinese, and watch me blow these people's minds with my fluent Chinese." The dude sounds like he took Chinese 101 and 102 like 30 times. So he can say all like where's the library perfectly and really really fast and fluently. And he can say all this really basic stuff really well, but none of his conversations ever go anywhere beyond that. So he's not fluent. And it's all sort of like no one expects this dude to come in and just start speaking Chinese. So of course they're going to be surprised. But he's not what he says he is.
Yeah. Well, there's that guy.
The language could be like, okay.
Yeah, there's that guy, but then there's another guy that's in actual China that he shoots videos going to I forgot what the hell his name is. And he's Canadian and he speaks fluent Chinese. Oh, he's called the Food Ranger. I don't know if you've ever seen him before. But he'll go to like weird places. Like he went to Sichuan. He's Sichuan down in the south. He's Beijing, Shanghai. Then he'll even go west. Like he did like a whole thing in western China. So like away from like the East Coast and stuff like that. And his Chinese is very good. But like he'll definitely eat some weird crap. So I thought that was very.
It's not hard to find, man.
Yeah.
And then go just in Beijing, you can easily find some of the stuff you could never even imagine, and an entire restaurant dedicated to it. There's more restaurants in Beijing than you could ever visit in your entire lifetime.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, when here, like, if people are trying to figure out, like, oh, what do I want to do? I had a lot of friends come from Indonesia, and they come here and they immigrate and they have skills, but what do they feel like that they want to do? The first thing they always complain about is that there's no real authentic food. So like the first idea of everybody that comes from Indonesia here is, oh, I'm going to start a restaurant. And it's a little different starting a restaurant here than it is in Indonesia. In Indonesia, you can just set up a hole in the wall and you start selling stuff out of the kitchen that you set up and you go for it. Like food is cheap and things aren't very expensive. Here it's like the licensing and all the things involved. I mean, most restaurants just to open up it costs $500,000 just to get all the proper like the permits, the location, the rental, the place where you want to open up, advertising, try to get all that stuff. And that's even before you even open the doors. Like that fake taco shop that's owned by the white guy that's right there, which I refuse to go to, and people fall for it. They've got these Mexican flags everywhere, and they hired an all ethnic staff.
Right around the corner, there's the Peruvian chicken place, which is the same thing.
It's like they've taken the authenticity out and made it comfortable for excuse me, white people. And they've taken the whole like big aspect of what it's supposed to be. It's just supposed to be an eatery. It's just down homey, good food that's like what they serve in Peru. That's how it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to cost more than $5 either. Like, but you go into that place that you mentioned, and it was like $14 for like quarter chicken with 2 sides. It's like, what are you doing? Like, how overpriced is this? And it wasn't even good.
Right.
So it's like, but it's non-threatening, which is, I think, what you're actually selling. You're selling like you're selling, oh, it's authentic Peruvian chicken, but in a non-threatening environment. And it's disheartening.
Right. Well, like if I had never known what it's supposed to taste like, and that was my first venture into what Peruvian chicken is, I would be like, this is okay. I won't come back. Whatever. So it's hard because
Yeah.
you'd want people's impression of kind of food, a cuisine, a culture's food to be the best of what it offers. Like, well, perfect example, like my students over in the Middle East. When we talked about American food, of course their ideas, oh, American food, hamburgers. I'm like, okay, guys, whatever. If that's what you think American food is, then tell me what you've eaten. And they're trying to talk about Burger King and McDonald's because that's what's over there. That's what they think is representative. And I'm like, if you think about a Burger King hamburger and then you think about the hamburgers you can make on the grill in your backyard during a barbecue that you make out of like good quality ingredients, that kind of thing, it's a world away. If you go to a really good burger place here that is not a chain and is not fast and has awesome choices for um, different kinds of cheeses and things like that, that's a whole different meal, a whole different experience.
Yeah.
So their idea of what Western food is based off of crap. And if they're like, I don't like it, I say, yeah, me either.
Well, that's
And then I think all the people over here that are eating Chinese takeout that just love it, like that's not Chinese food, people. You haven't eaten Chinese food and you don't know it, or you don't care enough to go searching for some authentic stuff. And you should, because it redefines how you see that culture.
well,
People are food, and it's all tied together. So
the number one export of America at this point is the cultural fast food that America has sort of developed. Like McDonald's is by far the number one most identifiable part of American cuisine. And people in some places are like, "Oh yeah, I like McDonald's and stuff," but everybody knows it's garbage food. It's a
actually,
convenience food that doesn't necessarily taste.
McDonald's in China is better than America. I'm serious, dude. The chicken wings, like what? Chicken wings from McDonald's? Hell yeah. Chinese McDonald's chicken wings are the bomb.
So maybe that's what, as now we come back to the list, both of us have traveled extensively overseas. You more than me, I think, a little bit more. But what if we were to rate the fast food of overseas? The foreign McDonald's, the foreign KFC, the foreign A&Ws, things that both of us can speak about and could actually mention the differences between what's here and what's over there. Might be pretty good. You've had Popeyes over there. I've had Popeyes overseas.
I've had Popeyes in China, and I've had Popeyes in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, and in America.
So there is a Popeyes in Spain. Did you hear about this? That they had a sauce that is not available here in the U.S. that apparently people are going crazy over, and they want it here in the U.S. And the U.S. Popeyes is like, nah, bruh, that's Spanish only. And it's like people are like, what?
It's all kinds of stuff like that, and some of it I'm really glad hasn't made it back over here because seaweed French fries from McDonald's was not the winner. I'll tell you that.
Umami. Seaweed is just pure umami, and you sprinkle that on. Maybe we talk about that because when I was a kid, and when I traveled to Indonesia and would visit my family for 3 months or so in the summer, I was a picky eater. I would like the basic stuff, nasi goreng, rendang, things like that. But I experimented with fast food overseas, and it was different. Like my KFC experience overseas is vastly different than my KFC experience here in the United States. I would rate KFC here in the United States a D when it comes to location. I would eat it if somebody bought it for me, but I would never go out and buy it myself. KFC in Indonesia is a solid B, and it's always full, and the focus is on other things, not just chicken. actually very good. Pizza Hut in
Wait, what else
England.
do they serve there? Wait,
Oh,
what else do they serve?
KFCs in Indonesia have a variety of other side dishes that are not served here in the U.S. but are very
Mm.
specific to Indonesia. They have something called pergadels. I don't know if you've had that. I think here at my house, when you've come over for a buffet style meal when there's just tons of stuff on the food and you're just a lot of that. But they're these little potato dumplings. They're stuffed with ground beef and herbs and are deep
Yeah.
fried. And they basically are at every meal. And you can get them over at the KFCs in Indonesia, and they are amazingly good.
Hmm.
So that's something that KFC has definitely got up here. If they serve those potato dumplings here, I think they'd sell really well, but people wouldn't know what they are. But in Indonesia, they go with every KFC meal. So it's like
Chinese KFC, they have these things called danta, which is like, actually, I believe it's originally Portuguese egg custards, where they like use a flame over the top of them to caramelize the sugar on top. So it's like a little cup pastry with a sweet egg custard inside, and then it's caramelized on top. They sell those as a dessert in KFCs in China, and I'll tell you what, man. I went to the gym, and it did not matter. Those things kept me chunky.
yeah. Oh man. So
They were
here's
like 50 cents.
so here's something that doesn't exist here in the United States. They have something called the mango float in the KFCs over in Indonesia, and the mango float is soft serve ice cream, uh, served on top of a sort of mango soda that's served at KFC, and it's pretty damn good. Because KFC here is very southern and like you have the southern hospitality, so the southern thing, but to have mango at a KFC, I thought was always very different. But it is very very good, and it's one of those things in which yeah. So it's
In
like
go ahead. You finished?
no, yeah, I'm finished, yeah. But there's
Oh,
all sorts of other crazy stuff too. So
in the KFC in China, there's not another option. Like you can have like original recipe and whatever else. Like there's just one. It's just fried. It's just like, I don't know which version of it is, but you don't get to choose. And
oh
KFC
really?
in the Middle East, over in Abu Dhabi, absolute trash. It
Really?
is foul. Like if you went and bought the cheapest like frozen food section tenders thing, and like that would be about the same quality. It's just flavorless, nasty, covered in mayonnaise, and they wrap it up like shawarma. So it doesn't even like seem like you're at KFC. Yeah, and I don't think the bucket is necessarily available in China. It wasn't, but in Middle East it was.
Yeah. So do you know what's also big in Indonesia and Malaysia? Kenny Rogers Roasters. Do you remember Kenny Rogers Roasters?
Maybe.
So, for those who don't know, in the early 90s, the country singer Kenny Rogers uh, experimented in having his own chicken chain. And it was actually sort of popular here in the DC area. And there was a dedicated Seinfeld episode that made fun of the fact. But what ended up happening is that the roasters here in the United States slowly turned down because it was in the height of the rotisserie chicken phase. So back in the early 90s, which I think if anybody's watching from, you probably haven't even been born yet, but there was Boston Market here in the United States. There was a place called Chicken Out. That's where you saw the rise of the first Peruvian chicken places because they were rotisserie based. And then there was a place called Kenny Rogers Roasters, and it had Kenny Rogers as your main guy who made these ridiculously delicious roasted rotisserie chickens. Um,
Hmm.
and they were very, very good, and they tasted great. But because of mismanagement or whatever, they just basically faded away here in the United States.
Kenny was skimming off the top.
Maybe, who knows? But in Malaysia, he franchised out into Southeast Asia, and it's ridiculously popular in Malaysia and in Indonesia. They are everywhere, and Kenny Rogers
And
is
still,
known. Yeah, And they are known more. Kenny Rogers is known more for his chicken than he is for his music.
But does the restaurant play his music 24 hours?
I don't think so. Not the one in Malaysia that I went to, but you see Kenny's giant face, and I think they have like I think like 30 to 50 locations in Southeast Asia. It's like, oh, go Kenny! But it's just interesting to see what actually goes out there and sticks, because there are things that are more popular there, like A&W, for example. A&W is not big in our area, but A&W is absolutely gigantic in Indonesia. And A&W is famous for its root beer here, see it in the grocery stores and stuff. But A&W restaurants will exist here in America sporadically. They're not, I guess they're popular, but they're not as popular as other places. In Indonesia, they're absolutely everywhere.
You still see them at rest stops, like up on the way to New York, New Jersey. They have that big stop there.
Yeah. I think there are over 100+ locations in Indonesia, and they're in every mall. And root beer is just super popular as a drink in Indonesia because of it. For A&W, it's because of that. Pizza Hut in Indonesia, that's a whole other thing. I mean, pizza is bad here in the United States, but the tomato sauce that they use over there is like ketchup.
It doesn't exist anymore, or it's bad. Most of them are shut down. It's like delivery only now, isn't it?
What, Pizza Hut?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they have any standalone stores where people go in and?
Not here in the U.S. Everything is delivery. Yeah, everything is delivery.
We used to steal some of that during high school. We used to go in there. Four high school kids. Only one of them orders the buffet. The other three just sit there and hang out. But the backpacks are open. Take that whole buffet and run out the door.
It's called cheap lunch. But sit-down restaurants, sit-down Pizza Huts exist in Indonesia all over the place. They also do exist in England. There's one right at Trafalgar Square, if I remember right, that one of our friends, Lee, says is like a real posh sit-down restaurant, and it's a Pizza Hut.
Yeah, it's like a nice date place in China, in Beijing. Pizza Hut's pretty fancy, and it's expensive for the standard, worker. Most people couldn't afford it, and So my students taught me that there was kind of a game that they play when they go there, and that is salad stacking, making towers. They give you a very small plate, about that big, and it's an all-you-can-eat, one-time visit salad bar. So whatever you can put on your plate and take back to the table is what you get. You can't go back to the bar after you do that. So what they would do is they would have their plate and they would choose stuff from the salad bar and build it around to make it higher and higher and higher. And by the end of it, this thing was probably 3 feet high of salad stuff. And they'd bring it back to the table, and like some of them would spill it, and then it would be a big problem. But it wasn't like one person was doing it. Like everyone in the restaurant was doing that to try to get the most out of it. So it was almost like an engineering feat to get your table to have a salad.
But the plate was yay big, you said, like, right?
Yeah, it wasn't very large, no.
That's interesting. Well, the whole concept of all you can eat is somewhat rare. It's gotten bigger recently. Mm-hmm. Well, remember the hotel that we went to in Bali had an all you can eat breakfast buffet. So that was sort of nice. But that whole concept sort of freaks people out still when you tell them.
Because people will take advantage, like the salad thing. You get enough people doing that in your salad bar, it looks pretty whack.
Exactly.
It gets done pretty quick. I know that the free refill on soda, that doesn't exist in a lot of places outside the U.S. So when I told my students that they could get free refills at some of the Western food places they went to, they're like, no, that's not possible. I'm like, just try it next time. And of course, that meant that they went there and got like 18 refills and drank until they were sick. But then they come in on Monday morning, they'd be like, "Teacher, that was amazing."
But then the thing about it is like we take it for granted. But with COVID, I think I've gotten one refill in the entire time in the last like 6 months, and I hope restaurants forget to like don't forget that refills are that's as American as apple pie. You go back and you get that second fill up of soda before you leave. That is a big deal. So it's like
You try to take away Americans' sugar, and there will be riots.
telling you.
So I have a feeling that's not a risk.
So, but only like I guess at the height of COVID, there were locations where you could only fill up once, and they wouldn't allow you for refills because you can't do the touching thing. So, yeah, but yeah, but I don't know. I say American fast food overseas might be a good category for
Well,
your
obviously,
build up.
we've been talking about it for like 20 minutes.
Oh, I know. So I can come up with a whole list of things that I think that we could judge in our next show, and I think it'd be great. I think that'd be fantastic. All right, got a category here. I'm actually looking through the KFC menu, the Indonesian KFC menu, right now, and it's actually hilarious. They have spaghetti on the menu, and I really wouldn't think that you would want spaghetti from KFC, but apparently it's featured very prominently.
Listen, as bad as it can be to have foreign cuisine here in the U.S., having American cuisine, or in this case, like the spaghetti is basically Americanized now. So having spaghetti overseas can be horrible. I had tacos, what was supposed to be a taco lunch in Abu Dhabi, and it was probably the worst meal I've ever had.
Oh my god!
It was like barbecue sauce and not Mexican cheese, just sort of cheese everywhere, and spiced meat that did not taste anything remotely like any kind of herbs, spices that
Were you looking forward to it, thinking that it might?
Yes, because I'd been so long since I had decent Mexican food, and what I found is I'm just not going to eat Mexican food outside of the U.S. anymore. I mean, unless I'm in Mexico, obviously, but it was just horrible. It was just horrible.
I know. I remember that we had a kick of where we would go Saturday mornings. We would just go to taco places.
You know me, dude. When I come back from my long stays overseas, I'm like, I need to get my fixes. So, was it the first thing? The first thing I had after. Remember the first time I went to China?
Yeah.
Way a million years ago. The first thing I wanted when I got off the
glass
plane,
of milk.
a glass of milk, because
Glass of
I'd
milk.
been drinking this powdered milk and basically just stopped drinking milk. It was only like, I guess it was 8 months, but if you, nobody thinks about it because they just either drink milk or they don't, but when it's just not on the menu anymore, and you come home and you have it, you're like, oh man, I remember that. That's the way it should be.
I remember we were sitting at a Mexican restaurant where you got a glass of milk, if I remember right, because you were off the plane. I think I dragged you to an anime convention, and I dragged you to Vegas, which was hilarious for somebody coming back from China and doesn't get to see his family. It's like, oh, I'm going to take you on a gambling trip first before you get back. So it was actually sort of funny. But we got some hangout time, and you got to meet my anime friends at the time, which was actually sort of hilarious. Because I think that you had never gone to an anime convention either at that point, right? I just happened to be in LA when you were flying in, and I had the bright idea of, hey, just hang out in LA and come to Vegas with me for the next couple of days.
That's funny.
So yeah, there was fun things that happened. It's like that. Yeah, but like your search for pork from living in the Middle East has always been fun. Oh yeah.
Every time I came back, I just had to load up.
No, yeah, I understand that. I mean, seriously, it's like fun barbecue, like good bacon.
Especially being from, I mean, what are we the South? Or are we not? But
theoretically,
yeah, that has a lot of Southern food.
Yeah.
And growing up like you did.
Our state rebelled, so our state was in the Confederacy. So it's like
I think we get the best of both worlds. We get the South, we get the North.
Well, considering considering our area, they don't consider part of Virginia. Like they don't consider our state a part of their state because you go 40 miles down. So
talk to a Southerner and tell them where you're from, and they'll be like, "No, you're not a Southerner." Talk to a northerner and tell her where you're from. They'll be like, no, you're not a northerner.
Yeah. You are mid-Atlantic, which whatever the hell that means. But it's almost like you're in a territory of where people refuse to claim you no matter where you go. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay.
Wow.
So what are you gonna do? So yeah. So get ready for that next week. We will be rating our favorite overseas fast food joints, and share some stories of maybe some of the fast food joints. One, I have a very poignant story about a KFC that I was at. That to this day, my mother still tells, and I will tell that story next week.
I'll see if I can dig up some photos. I have actually a photo of me in a KFC on New Year's Eve.
You were at a KFC on New Year's Eve.
I'll say it till our next
Okay.
thing. But
All right.
I was already drunk as shit, so I'll see if I can find that photo.
Well, overseas, for people who don't know, Christmas is a big KFC holiday in Japan. So if you are in Japan for Christmas, the meal of choice is a KFC bucket. And people will wait in line and reserve them as far out as 90 days in advance to make sure that they get that KFC on Christmas. It is absolutely hilarious, but it is a Japanese tradition that they have actually played up, and you can see it in anime and certain things when they do Christmas stuff. Fried chicken is a big thing. So for those who are afraid about traveling overseas and not finding any food, go to Japan over Christmas, have yourself some KFC, because that'll be really good.
All right, so next time we come on here, we'll talk a little bit about some games that we're playing.
Yep.
And how things are going with that. We'll talk about our food, because that's always delicious and wonderful. And then maybe we can pull up a few topics from Reddit about the horrible world of dating and romance and love and that
exactly.
stuff.
Talk about
There's
what
always
we're.
good stuff to talk about there too.
No, there's tons of stuff that we can talk about, and dating in the time of COVID, I think, is an interesting category because there have been a lot of stories recently of people who are lonely and are basically away from people, but they want to have a relationship but can't. So we'll find a couple.
At this point, there's a lot of people that are dating in spite of it.
Yeah.
With reservations. So there's a lot of interesting, like, I want to be safe, he doesn't. He wants to be safe, I don't, kind of stuff. So we'll get into it.
Yeah, we're gonna do all of that stuff on the next Twitchline, folks. But I think that's gonna do it for today. We've been on for a good hour here, Timmy. So I think we'll cut it off here. Save stuff for next week. We've teased you some stuff. So as always, join us here on Wednesday nights. Start time to be determined based on whether or not the farming for Get to Shadowlands has gotten a little out of hand, as I spent 2.5 hours today trying to get multiple levels. I swear to God,
do that work.
I'm telling you though, I suck by myself. I realized how much damage you do with that heirloom gear versus being by myself.
Listen, dude, my back is so sore from carrying.
yeah, my character sucks, but what are you gonna do? It's like he gets greens. That's all he gets. He's not getting any of that high quality gear.
Well,
and I'm spending.
I think it's around 90. That because I'm cheap, I never upgraded my heirloom gear, so it'll just stop working. So
Oh, really?
I'll be with you pretty soon.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm 80 now, so oh my God.
Cool.
What are you, like 80, 83? 82?
82.
Oh, all right, so I'm only 2 levels away. Yeah, that's good. Maybe I might quest in Terracar a little bit more, maybe get even, and then figure out something. But it still didn't give me the ability to quest in Pandaland yet. Right now, I've only gotten Frozen Throne stuff, and I don't see any Panda quests.
When you log back in, it's gonna pop up as an intro line.
Oh, okay. So maybe that's it. Maybe I was just playing.
Your voice.
Oh no, is my voice okay?
Your video froze, and you're starting to sound like a robot.
Hello. No. Maybe to you, not to me.
Oh shit! Sorry, I'm probably ruining everything.
No, you. All right. Well, we'll end the show today right here. We'll catch you next time. So join us again on Wednesday night, where we talk about all things. We'll get into a little gaming, a little bit of relationships, and hopefully you'll enjoy us as you pass into the night and say goodbye to Wednesday and hello Thursday. And hopefully we make your night enjoyable. But for Tim, I'm Z. Have a good night.
Night, everyone.